time, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And before taking roll, if it's okay, Brian and Mike, maybe we'll take a minute and let Nathan tell us a little bit about himself and his interest in Wilsonville Parks and Rec.
Sounds good to me.
It's nice to meet you all. My name is Nathan. I also go by Nate, so either one is fine with me. I've lived in Wilsonville probably about 12 years now. I'm originally from Eugene. I also lived in Bend, Oregon for about 4 years. I went to the Art Institute of Portland here. I currently work for a local utility company in the Portland area, as well as have a background of working with the city of Lake Oswego. I've always been a pretty big guy into sports, all sports. Snowboarding and skateboarding were kind of my things growing up. But I also did soccer and baseball. I was a cross country runner. More recently, I've been very into fishing since the pandemic hit. So I've been getting a lot of use out of the Willamette River, and just hoping to kind of share hopefully creative ideas and stuff on ways I think that we could potentially improve parks and other facilities.
Awesome, thank you.
Awesome, yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
I took advantage of the good weather today and went out to Newburgh and did a little skating this afternoon. So it was good. All right, not seeing Jennifer or Amanda. I think we should go ahead and get started here. It's been a while since we've done this. I think we need to take the official roll call. Brian, are you calling that out or?
I'm happy to do that. I think before I do that though, I just want to clarify so we're all on the same page, and when I do this roll call, we're not in an awkward situation. Kate, are you here as an attendee from the public, or are you here as a Parks and Rec Advisory Board member tonight?
I'm here as a Park and Recreation Advisory Board member. Am I entered in as an observer? Because I didn't get the link, so I grabbed the link. That's why I think there's a confusion there. Yeah, and I would agree with the confusion. And my understanding, and we'll confirm with Kim Valise, was that your term had ended and you were not eligible for reappointment. So I believe. Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get that. Well, no, we'll sort all of that out. Which would have been why you weren't on that distribution from Brittany. But you were definitely welcome to hang out with us if you would like. And no, that's okay, because I had an email from Asamon if I was coming to the January 14th. So there's confusion there too in my email. Maybe I got the wrong email. Why don't you hang out with us tonight?
And if we had our pick, obviously, Kate, we'd love you to stay. You've been a great member since I've been here. So.
Oh, sure. Sure. I'm happy to be on mute. So we can sort that out, and I'll call the official roll, Jim, and then Kate, like I said, we'd love to have you here, and we'll figure out how that appointment or lack thereof shook out. Okay. So I'm going to call roll at this point. Amanda Aird, Jim Barnes.
Yes.
Dahe Chen. Here. Daniel Christensen.
Here.
Nathan Early.
Here.
Jennifer Link Rashko. And Jeff Redmond.
Good day, Brian.
Thank you.
And Amanda is here now. Hey, Amanda.
Have you since joined us? Amanda, if you can see or hear us, can you just give us a wave?
Now she can. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, everyone.
For the record, Amanda has joined us, so.
Yeah,
All right,
I wonder, Brian, can I say two things really fast? One, the agenda, we'll try to stick to it, is 5:15, if we can try to stick to that. The second thing is I think Brittany might have sent out a webinar protocol or something like that, right? And we wanted to make sure that you didn't think Brittany was breaking her own rules. She's at the front desk and the front doors are open. So if she all of a sudden disappears, she's not trying to play a game on anybody. She's actually waiting on a customer. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, were you done? I lost track.
Yeah, roll call is complete. At this point, I'll turn it over to you, Jim.
All right, thank you. Well, welcome everybody to the new year. Obviously, COVID had a big impact on last year's meeting schedule, and hopefully now that everybody's been fully trained on Zoom meetings over the last number of months, we can proceed a little more regularly this year. We did an introduction of our one new board member, Nathan Early. Amanda, just before you got on, he gave us a brief recap of sort of his background in 12 years living in Wilsonville. Sticking to our hour and 15-minute time frame, I'll kind of keep moving. Approval of minutes, or maybe I should back up for a second. Brian, just to confirm with the new member, Nate, that you or somebody from the Parks group will be kind of bringing him up to speed with prior, showing him where to get prior minutes and information and park history and what have you. Okay.
That is
and then why don't we take 30 seconds, 30, 45 seconds per person, per board member, and just give a brief synopsis of yourself so that Nate has some idea who's on the other end of this call. Jeff, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, I got that figured out this time. Hey, Nate, welcome, man. 25-year resident of Wilsonville, father of two young men who are growing and off on their own, so empty nester with a little bit of time on my hands. That's why I joined this program here, see if I could maybe give back to this beautiful community that's given me so much. So welcome.
Thank you. Amanda?
Hi, Nathan. So I've been in Wilsonville for 3, maybe 4 years. I have a 9 and 11-year-old boys, and we just use the parks and all the park services, and we just like Wilsonville. So I figured we'd just get involved as well. Nice to meet you.
Dahi?
Yeah, welcome back. I kind of left East Coast about 5 years ago, started moving west and then north. And gradually, about 3 years ago, I ended up here. I can't move anywhere else, so I got stuck here. And I take you on soccer anytime.
All right, thank you. Daniel?
Hi, Nate. I'm Daniel. Lived here almost close to 4 years. Use parks every day, almost. Mostly a lot since, I've been working from home every day. So it's been a luxury. And I have a 8-year-old, so we do a lot of exploring. So that's my approach to this, is just things to do in Wilsonville and make them better. So.
Kate?
Oh, I didn't know you wanted me to engage.
Well, who knows what's going to happen at the end of this, so let's just go ahead.
Family's been here since '87. I moved back personally in 2008, 2009. I'm a swimmer and avid parks user, 2 dogs. Own my own business here in town and love Wilsonville.
Awesome. And then for myself, I've lived in Wilsonville since 1987. I live next to Memorial Park. 2 boys, 24 and 26, that are out on their own now, thank goodness. And I use the river a lot for water skiing, skateboarding, snowboarding. Just retired this last fall or last spring, so get back into fishing again. And that's it about me. Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And do you have any questions on the minutes? Seeing no questions, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I've got a motion to approve the minutes.
Jeff, would you like to second that?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those, is anyone opposed? Hearing none, the minutes pass. Citizen input. Brian, do we have anything written, or I don't see anything, anybody calling in for it?
I've not received anything written for the record, Jim.
Okay, and is there any, just to check, since we're not in person as much, anything in general that you've picked up from the community lately that we might want to be aware of or address later in your staff comments?
Other than, I think everyone's ready for the global pandemic to end and life to get back to normal and certain park amenities or recreation amenities to be open. That probably sums it up in 6 sentences.
Awesome, thank you. Next order of business is the 2021 board officer appointments. Turn off my phone. So each year we select the board chair and board vice chair. Last year I was the chair and Kate was the vice chair. And I'm more than happy to either continue or let somebody else do it. It absolutely doesn't matter any to me one way or the other. If there's anybody that has a real passion for wanting to be the chair this year, please speak up so we can self-nominate you.
I will nominate you for the next year.
What was that, Mike? Or who? I couldn't hear that very well.
That's me.
Hey, Dahi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you said, Dahi.
I said I nominated you for next year.
Okay.
Can I vote? No,
and then
he said no.
I'm sorry, Kate. I didn't quite hear you.
He said no, never mind.
Okay. Not hearing anybody else wanting to be the chair. Again, I am totally happy if somebody else wants to. Would anybody interested in being the vice chair? Kate, I'm not sure, given your status, I would recommend you at the moment. Maybe Jeff, you looked like you had some passion last year when we were talking. Would you have interest in being the vice chair or being nominated?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. Anybody else interested in being nominated for the chair or vice chair? Hearing none, as I look across here. Dahi, would you make a motion for those two appointments for me and Jeff?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that nominate Jen to be the chair and Jeffrey to be the vice chair for year of 2021.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second both of those.
Thank you. Amanda? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. So that will be our chair and vice chair for this upcoming year. Anything else on that, Brian, that I missed?
I think you covered it, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Next, mid-year report from staff.
All right, so I'm gonna kind of spearhead this one just to get us started. I'll share my screen so you all can see the presentation. A few things before I pull it up. You are going to see a variety of masked and unmasked photos throughout the year. Just wanted to give the caveat that that is just because regulations changed. I couldn't believe as we were going back through the pictures, where there's pictures of Osman and I in June or something where we're not wearing masks, and I was like, oh, what? And then I realized, oh, we weren't doing that then. So just be aware of that. These pictures go back and forth. And this is just going to be kind of a recap of 2020 for you guys, mostly in pictures. Each of us will kind of touch on our various pieces of the department. I'll introduce myself real quick, and maybe the other staff here can do that as well, just for Nate. I'm Erica. I'm the recreation coordinator here, so I do a lot of youth programming, adult programming, primarily after 5 o'clock, so evening and weekend programming for adults. I also, in a normal year, do all of the special events programming, so things like movies in the park, block party, big Easter egg hunt, things like that. Also fall to me. I'm going to keep saying during a normal year, but we also usually publish an activity guide. That's about a 30 to 40 page booklet of activities. That's something that I also put together. So that's kind of my piece, sponsorships as well. So that's where I lie. And I'll pass it to Brian. We'll just introduce ourselves and then we'll head into the presentation so you have a better understanding.
Thanks, Erica. So Brian Stevenson, Program Manager in the Parks and Recreation Department. Day-to-day duties are overseeing our community center, which is our older adult programming, social work, home delivered meal programs. Also involved with the city's grant programs that the Parks and Rec Board is responsible for allocating the Community Opportunity Grant, which we will be looking at again this upcoming spring. Dustin?
Yeah, Dustin Schul, Park Supervisor. The team that I'm fortunate enough to lead here in Wilsonville is the Parks Maintenance team. General day-to-day maintenance, turf care, landscape care, bigger picture, park and playground maintenance, installations. Just trying to make sure all those amenities that the people of Wilsonville love to enjoy are at the top of their condition, and that we can bring as many things into town as we possibly can for amenities. Mike?
Yeah, Brittany, why don't you go ahead?
Brittany?
Hey, I'm administrative assistant. I'm kind of filling in for Osman right now over at Parks and Rec. Usually I work over at the community center.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mike McCarty. I'm the Parks and Rec Director. I basically have the opportunity to work with the best staff ever. So it's kind of what I get to do, is work with these guys and the park staff, people over at the community center. They're seriously outstanding people, and I just am blessed and I get a chance to work with them. I feel fortunate for that.
All right, so without further ado, I give you the 2020 presentation. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, so what you're going to look at here is a couple of our new and remodeled additions to Morassi Park. The slide was just a landscaping renovation. We had some significant landscaping nuances and problems around that slide. So we brought in, I think it's like 60 tons worth of basalt columns, completed that project in-house with 4 or 5 teammates over a couple of weeks. Pretty tremendous cost savings, somewhere in the $40,000 to $50,000 neighborhood. It's stood up really well here over the last year, coming up on a year. We're really proud of the usage pattern and watching, kids climb on the rocks, but still be a safe distance away from them to enjoy the slide. Parents utilize those rocks as benches a whole lot. down in the lower left-hand corner there, we have 2 fully accessible double basket swings. You are, if you're anybody, a kid with adaptive needs, an older adult, a young child, I know Brian's had his little one on there. You can walk right up to him. There's no change in surface height. You can walk right up to it, roll right up to it. You've got a fully accessible swinging experience. Looking at the slides over there, looks like Eric has got the dog park relocation is complete. We got that moved over. That's like anything new. There's some bumps and bruises along the way that will work out as the weather dries out here. We had some playground improvements and inspections that went on post COVID right at Labor Day. There was a tremendous push from our parks team. The governor, the Friday before Labor Day at about 3 o'clock, okayed playgrounds to be open for community use. We rallied the team. We had six teammates come in on a Saturday, and we had every playground in the city of Wilsonville that was safe to open within 1 day, less than 24 hours after the governor issued those orders on a holiday weekend. So a real point of pride for our team there. We've got a couple of new parks maintenance teammates. We brought in Mike Pierce, who was a seasonal with our facilities team. Been a great addition, really has a sharp eye for taking care of landscapes and really doing all those little things in the parks that kind of go unnoticed, but make the parks pop. And we also brought in, had the opportunity to bring in Chris Delk. He's his horticulture background, arborist certificate, volunteers at the Hoyt Arboretum. If you guys have plant questions, Chris is your guy. He's going to work with Erica to do a worm composting program. We're really fortunate to have brought those teammates on board, as well as have the standby team that we've had for so many years. I really think that the Wilsonville Parks maintenance team is truly a top performing team in the region, and we can do a lot of great things when we put our mind to it. We also have some new trails in Memorial that go along with that dog park. And yeah, then we have a new supervisor. So that's me. And I'm just here to do what's in the best interest of the community and the team and get the ball rolling in the best way possible. And so these are going to be, so the left is the Park at Marysfield project. Took and revitalized that playground. Also, there's a trail system there now. If you haven't been on it, it's a soft trail, quarter-minus path that kind of zigzags. It's simplified maintenance for us a little bit, giving us the opportunity to mow a steeper slope a little more often. But we also access an Oregon State Heritage tree. There's an RV short fir up there, which is one of the tallest trees in that area, left from before that area was logged out. And we've also, in that same park, we replanted 5 of the native Oregon white oaks in that park to kind of start to give that area some native forestry cover. On the right there, you see the team that came in and got those parks up and running Labor Day weekend at the drop of a hat for the community. So ultimately really proud of that team standing right there in regards to those playgrounds. There's the grand opening of the new dog park, masked and ready to roll. That's a snapshot of everybody from our seasonal teammates to Asaman, to Mike, to our road supervisor Preston, Langlayers, Brian. We got some other roads and stormwater teammates that were a major part of that project. The dog park is a tremendous asset. Like I said, there's some things that we're gonna focus on getting refreshed when it dries out, but really a tip to tail team effort for everybody in the city of Wilsonville, and we couldn't be happier to have that out there for you guys. There's a few of the amenities. You can see the shelter in the top left-hand corner. That's on the right side of that picture is the small dog park shelter. Some of the trails that cut that amenity. There's trails on the outside, trails on the inside. The right-hand picture there is our fully enclosed restroom. It's not a little blue porta potty anymore. Fully functioning, heat, the whole 9 yards. It's a great amenity down there that was dropped in place with a crane. It seems to have stood up well the first 3 or 4 months. So we're excited to see how it kind of weathers the usage pattern. Bottom left-hand corner is our dog washing station. There's four stations, like you can see Zach operating there. It's been a huge hit. You can imagine with the rain and the mud that anywhere you can take your dog and let them have some fun and clean them up is a plus. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the unofficial mascot for the Wilsonville Park and Rec Department. That would be Erica's dog Talia, who is a consistent user of everything parks in Wilsonville and really doesn't have too many complaints. So there's the concrete going in. You can see that's the couple of parks teammates there, and Preston Langliers, who's our road supervisor leading the charge. She actually has a background in bidding concrete projects. He's actually poured a bunch of miles of Interstate 84, and he'll know the number, but it's a crazy amount of miles out at the airport at Portland. So he was a real asset to have, kind of leading our concrete charge there. We poured all that concrete in house within the dog park, and then Talia often moonlights as the project coordinator and supervisor when she's not enjoying the dog wash station. A couple of other smaller, well, there's a multitude, I guess, on this page. We took the opportunity in that top left-hand corner to delineate the swing set. We're kind of standing in the swing set area where that picture is looking down at the sign barn to keep that venue a little bit sheltered from playground users and kind of give that more intimate wedding vibe. We put some landscaping in. Those are flowering dogwood trees and some other low white flowering shrubs and bushes. As that gets established, it should really create a nice natural shelter belt, but also give some color for those early and late season weddings. On the right hand of the top there, you can see Zach Moore's cutting a trail. That's where the new trail went through the dog park. It ended up being a tremendous amount of work, but I think we added an extra somewhere between a half a mile and 0.6 miles of trail outside of those dog parks. And if you include what's in the dog park, we have almost a full mile of 6 foot wide, a quarter minus crushed trail over streams, through ravines, kind of out under the peninsula. We've seen some beaver out there near the dog park. So it's been a really great access to nature for a lot of people. It's easy to park in that parking lot and access them. Bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the team spreading some quarter minus in those entryways for the dog park. Those are a nice adjustment from what we've had before. We're going to work to, there's a road grade fabric under there with a thick layer of quarter minus over the top, which will keep the weeds and the mud out and really give dog park users an opportunity to have their dogs kind of come out and go in clean, unless it's been raining 3 inches at a time. Bottom right hand corner is Roger Moeller. He's working to spread some quarter minus on the trail system there. Side note on Rogers, if you guys have seen any of the holiday videos with the time warp on GoPro, Roger's my tech guy. He's got a tech background and loves to pull together cool videos like that for the community when he gets time.
Hey, Dustin, can you hit one more thing on the dog park area? What was the approximate cost that we figured out if we went out and had it done outside, and how much did we save?
So depending on how those numbers get utilized and where contractors would have come in, best guess is that project would have been somewhere between $550,000 and $750,000, and all told, and a large portion of that of our cost was just structures and things like that. All told, we came in somewhere in that $400,000 range. So we're plus $100,000 for sure on savings on that dog park, and it's probably more.
Nice.
All right, Erica, is this you or me?
If you want to start this one, and I think we can each chime in where we see appropriate.
Okay. Well, I'll just give the heading then. Basically, as you all know, a lot of changes and almost all cancellations. We basically had to cut off all our classes. We had to cut off all our events. Everything pretty much stopped. Water features didn't open this year, as you probably well know. Eric can hit more on the events that are listed there, but really none of the larger events took place. Erica can also hit on the way that she tried to mitigate that, and she did a great job doing that by offering a lot of virtual type things, which it's all we could do, and she did more than most people would have done, which is pretty cool for the community. The reservation stopped as far as shelters, the barn, because weddings couldn't have them for the most part. As Dustin alluded to, playgrounds were closed for a few months and then reopened suddenly, and so that was at least a positive to get those reopened. Brian can hit more on the community center if he wants to, but the community center was closed, which was probably Well, the events were a big deal, but closing that community center is huge because, as you know, the people that visit that center, that the age group there, I know Kate knows this really well. Sometimes that is their social outlet. That's the people they get to talk to, and the only people they talk to on a day-to-day basis. And to go in there and eat meals and talk to people or play cards, that coming to a halt, and it's still closed, of course, is something we hope ends pretty soon for that group, because again, it's very important for them to socialize. I guess with that, I'll turn it over to whoever else wants to take it. That's kind of the highlights, or I guess you call them the lowlights of what happened in 2020.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the Parks Bond Task Force? So the task force completed their work to the point of making a recommendation to City Council on prioritizing projects. And then about the time the City Council would have really taken up the work of evaluating that recommendation and making a decision to move forward with a bond, kind of COVID hit, the stock market took a tank, and basically people backed away from funding initiatives. Can you sort of tell us what's
Absolutely, Jim. I should have
happened?
hit more on that before you even had to bring it up, but absolutely. We did have a Parks Bond Task Force, as Jim alluded to. In fact, Jim headed that up as the chair. We had a facilitator. I think we had, was it 17 or 19? I think it was in that area of 17, 19 members on the task force that were put on there by City Council. A variety of people, from sports people to river people to, parents, just whatever. We tried to get a wide variety. I think we had a member from the school board there. Again, we wanted to get a lot of different perspectives on what was important in the community. We went through the Memorial Park Master Plan, Boones Ferry Master Plan, the overall city master plan, and kind of looked at the city in its totality of what did people want. Did they want some of the projects that came up? River access at Boones Ferry, river access at Memorial, skate park, ball fields out at the new, where the new Meridian Creek Middle School is, changing the ball fields at Memorial from the regular turf to synthetic turf, just a variety of different projects. And we went through, again, Jim, I think it was 6 meetings, if my memory serves.
Like that.
And it, it was a little hectic at first because it was so huge. It was a huge project to overtake. And we were basically given the task to come back to the council with a list of, did we want to go out to the public for a $20 million bond, which would give us this project, or a $50 million bond, or a $100 million bond if we wanted to hit that many projects. And of course, that would be a tax on the citizens. And as Jim said, because of what happened with the people losing jobs and all the different things, the council and the task force thought it was prudent to stop it before it went forward, because we didn't think it had a really very good chance of passing. When we were in the middle of it, we thought it had a great chance of passing. And I believe that the task force came up with, I think it was around a $40 million, if I'm not mistaken. And they had some, they had a top, again, Jim, 5, 6, 7 projects. There were Charbonneau sidewalks were on the possibilities. And I think our last meeting was on March 10th. And of course, that's right when everything was happening, and we were supposed to go to council, I believe, in April. And then it was decided that, it just wasn't, again, the prudent thing to do, because going through that whole process was going to be a little costly, hiring people to, do different checking to see if it's going to pass, all those kind of things. And we'd already spent a little bit of money. It wasn't really a lot of money up to that time, but we just didn't think it was a good time to go forward, because again, it wasn't going to pass. We were pretty sure. So a lot of people put a lot of time into it. I'm hoping we can revisit in a couple of years. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I mean, I'd be shocked. But I think we have a good jumping off point in a couple of years if we can do it again, and we'll see what happens from there. And Jim, you can add, obviously you were there. Brian was there too, if he wants to add also anything.
Yeah, I think it was just, for me, it was interesting to note that by the time we got to the fall elections, city of Portland, I think, and areas around the Portland metro actually passed a number of supplemental bonds. So it's kind of surprising to me how many did go forward, and most of them passed, as I recall, that were in a parks or school funding related. So it was interesting, and with that, we got the weird economy at the moment where stock market's at a record high, but a lot of the restaurant tourism jobs are suffering quite a bit. What does that mean for passing a bond in 2021 or 2022? There's a large number of people that are still doing just fine. So it'll be interesting to see how the council considers that going forward.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that further, but I don't want to interrupt Erica's show here, but.
Can I ask one? I do have a question. So that was a lot of work to go through all that and come up with a consensus on where priorities were. In say 2 years, hopefully things have recovered, the economy's recovered some. Can we just pick up where we left off and go forward, or does that whole process have to go through again?
That's a good question, Amanda. I don't know. I mean, I would hope we could kind of pick up where we left off. One, see if the task force is still intact as far as the people are still here and want to be involved. Maybe we did want to add a person or two that moved into the community that would be, relevant to give us some good info. See what projects maybe would be taken off because maybe we made a little bit of progress on them, but I would hope we could kind of at least not start over. I mean, I would hope we could somehow get at least somewhere in the middle, if not take off where we left from.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Amanda was part of that process too. So.
Brian, I think unless you have anything else to add to this slide for the sake of time, I'm going to keep going.
I don't. It looked like Nate was going to chime in there. Nathan,
I had a question. I was just curious as to, maybe I didn't understand it correctly, but what's the, can you still propose the bond and then it gets voted for? Is that the understanding?
We could have went forward. We just felt like it was, again, the odds of passing at that time because of what was going on, again, with people, again, losing jobs, and would they really vote for another tax right now? We didn't think was a positive move at that time.
What would the downfall be if it was proposed and then people just said no?
Well, we'd have to put in a little bit more money. Like you said, you'd have people doing surveys to see, how the voting is going to go. So we'd have to hire a survey company. So there's a little bit more money involved that we'd be throwing at it. Other than that, I guess it would just be it was a voted no, and would that make it even longer waiting period to come back to try it again? So I mean, we could have went forward, but like I said, I agreed with not going forward. I mean, just to be honest with you, I just didn't think it was the right way to go at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I think it'd just be interesting to get the city council's view, more out in May timeframe as to, is that something they want to go forward with in the fall of 21?
It's definitely worth putting it forward to them to see what they think. That's a good idea, Jim.
Yeah. All the forecasts at the moment are for, the economic world to be a lot better come a year from now, almost a year from now. So, okay, sorry, Erica.
Brian, anything on this slide before I go to the next? Okay.
I'll just jump in here from a community center perspective. As Mike mentioned, our doors have been closed since March. What we have been able to continue to do is our home delivered meal program. And not only have we continued at the capacity that we were at before, we've added a number of clients to the route. So we have 2 home delivered meal routes that go out to folks in the community Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then Creekside Woods, which is a low income housing apartment complex that's right behind the community center. We've been able to set up a lunch pickup. They were common attendees at our lunch program at the community center. So you can see Brittany there on that slide on the left. Each day, there's a time window they can come pick up their lunch. So that way, not only are we able to provide them a meal, but Sadie Wallenberg, who's our social worker, has an opportunity. She and Brittany typically do that meal handoff. So they have an opportunity to check in on a daily basis with those clients that are coming over. And for a lot of them, it's their only time out of their apartment for the day. They do have pretty strict protocols there at the apartment complex. So it gives them an opportunity to get a little fresh air, a little socialization with our staff. So that's been great. And then with the pandemic hitting, we have had to eliminate volunteers. Our home delivered meal program typically was delivered by volunteers within the community. That change has resulted in Smart Transit. Their dial-a-ride drivers now deliver those meals. And it's been an interesting way to do it, but it's been helpful because those drivers that are doing it, they've developed relationships. They're seeing these folks every day throughout the week. And they're drivers who are trained to take folks to medical appointments and very attuned to older adults. So it's been beneficial to us to have that extra set of eyes when folks are unfortunately limited to their homes or their apartments, to have folks that are well-versed in handling situations that older adults may fall into. I would say we've had at least 1, if not 2, discoveries that have helped save people from major medical conditions, if not the extreme of where that could go through this process. So it's been nice to have Smart having those extra eyes on the ground and at folks' front doors as we go through this. As Erica mentioned, the other thing that's changed for us big time is no in-person classes. So we have, as we're doing tonight, as all of you have done in your likely professional and personal lives, gone virtual. That upper left-hand corner picture is Brad Moore, who's our personal trainer that we have on site. He's been doing everything from YouTube classes that can be posted and watched at a later date. He has done he currently has 4 sets of small group personal training clients that he meets with 4 days a week. We're getting ready to roll out in March for a bit of a less able-bodied older adult. We call it Stretch, Strength, and Stamina, but it's a program folks can sit and do at their home. And we're going to be offering folks the ability to check out a couple dumbbells from us and an exercise band at no charge. And that class will have no charge either. So just doing our best to engage with the older adult community as we go through this. Our social worker has moved predominantly to phone calls, although she will get out in the community occasionally if folks are in need in an emergency situation of groceries or prescription drop-off. So we are trying to limit in-person as much as we can, but we're going to err on the side of making sure our community is taken care of first and foremost. And then I will point out, I'm sorry, you can leave it on that slide though, that through this, with our center being closed, Brittany, who's here with us tonight, and Brenda, who's our other admin at the community center, have just been taking on a number of tasks, one of which, when we thought this was going to be a short-term closure, we decided, hey, it'd be a good idea to paint the inside of the community center. So the 2 of them almost single-handedly painted almost the entire community center inside. So they can now add that to their resume, whether they want to or not. But they've kind of been the jack of all trades, with various exposures and people having to take time off. Both Brendan and Brittany spend a lot of time helping our nutrition staff if anyone is out or if we're having to just deal with the increase in demand. So they're back there pretty much every day during the week helping pack bags for home delivered meal programs.
Okay, so I'm gonna quickly touch on just kind of how events changed or stopped for us, how summer camps had to be modified, and just the things that we were able to do throughout the year to keep engaged with the community and to offer what we could, how we could. So you'll see in these pictures, one of the earlier things we did, well, I guess it wasn't even early, this was in August, but this was actually one of the first in-person things that we kind of had the thought to do in a safe and effective way. As we hosted this series of Chalk the Park events. They were obviously all hosted outside. We had a number of staff there, and basically it's as simple as it sounds. We made ourselves available in the parks, handed out free chalk, and encouraged people to write positive messages on the sidewalk. We played music, and we got to interact at a distance with members of our community, and they were hugely successful. And it changed location. You'll see on the flyer in the bottom right, change location of the park kind of around town to get to some different areas and serve some different parts of the community. So that was really successful, and that was like, it was just so good to actually be out in the community again and not just doing something virtual. So this was kind of one of our first, like I said, successful in-person events that we were able to hold. We also have, as we go through some of these pictures, we've changed the way or the style in which we hold events. So a lot of the stuff we've been doing lately are kind of these whole month calendars. So Harvest Festival, for example, we publish this whole month long or 2.5 week long kind of style of a calendar where there's all sorts of different events happening, and just kind of packaging it in a calendar format has been something we've gotten positive feedback with, and think that, I think the community is really engaging in this kind of activity. So you'll see things on this calendar, like we've been doing a number of drive-through events. So for those of you that are familiar with our traditional Harvest Fest, it's normally hundreds of people packed in the Stein barn, which just wasn't going to be an option this year, obviously. So we modified some of the key pieces that normally take place during that Harvest Festival and just made them safe for the community. So this, in the picture, you'll see instead of doing pumpkin carving or pumpkin decorating in the barn, we just did a drive-through free pumpkin pickup with the same sort of craft that we would do in the barn, but just handed it out to people as they drove through to do at home. We also did a hidden pumpkin scavenger hunt. Scavenger hunts have been something that I have really been clinging to as an activity because we just keep getting really positive feedback on it. So that's something that you'll see as a normal thread throughout a lot of our events have been these scavenger hunt style, where people can, do it on their own time. It's outside. You're not really, advertising for a crowd to show up at a single place. It's just really been trying to rework your brain to think about, how can these events be popular, and in people wanting to do it, but not popular in the sense where everyone's going to be together at the same time. So it's been a little bit tricky, but I think we're really starting to get the roll of it. And there's a lot of things I will say moving forward that are different this year, but to be honest, it's like, oh, why didn't I think about doing that before? Even in a normal year, there'll be things that I take, pieces of these kind of virtual events that I'll take even into a year where we don't have to socially distance. So these are just more pictures. This was, for example, Brian's in the middle there. I don't know if you can tell it's him or not. Brittany's in the donut costume, but this is just an example of a drive-through event at the community center. Same thing, just something safe that we can offer to the community. And on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see a member of the community who found one of the pumpkins in the scavenger hunt. Same sort of thing. These are still all Harvest Festival related, but doing things like prize giveaways. If you do, if you use this hashtag online and participate that way, you're entered to win this prize. So again, things that aren't taking place in person, but you're still kind of getting that virtual conversation happening, to feel like we're all together. So a lot of, in the bottom right hand, sorry, again, you'll see we've also common threads. We've been doing a lot of virtual crafts. So those have been posted on our Facebook Live as well. Again, this is same sort of thing. Like I said, monthly sort of calendar style with different events, all virtual or drive-through kind of based. This was our kind of winter, we called it Winterfest calendar this year. Something really special we got to do was handwritten reply letters from Santa. So kids came in and submitted, we offered these free kind of Santa, letter to Santa templates with free crayons, and they took them home, submitted them back, and then Brenda at the community center hand wrote a reply to each kid, and they got that in their mailbox at home from Santa. So like that was super special. And I think she wrote like 100 of them, so not a small task. Again, virtual crafts. We did the toy drive like normal. Our building was open for people to come drop off toys. We added a senior stocking event this year that collected over 100 stockings for seniors that were also handed out through the home delivered meals program. And we collected also about 500 toys that we were able to distribute through Clackamas County. Here's just another picture of a drive-through event, an example of the letters to Santa toy drive. Just another example of one of the scavenger hunts we did. This was the hunt for the gingerbread family. With the help of the parks crew, we got these spread out throughout our parks, and people were just encouraged to take a photo, submit your photos, again, all online, you know, very little interaction. So keeping it safe there. This was also really popular. I think we had over 50 families do this. And by taking the pictures and sending them in, you're just entered into a prize drawing. So that was something that was really popular. And then coming up, this is just kind of looking forward. Currently, we have DIY Valentine card kits at the admin office. They're all individually packaged in Ziploc bags. People take one or two, however many they want. And all of the supplies are in them to create a Valentine. We're doing Valentines for frontline workers. So we're asking folks to bring them back or give them to someone they know in the community who's been working during this pandemic, like your bus driver or your grocery store clerk, your dentist, your doctor, people like that who have really been on the front lines. So that's kind of something we're doing right now. And then kicking off on February 2nd, we're also doing yet another one of these scavenger hunt style activities as well. So that's where we are. If anyone has any questions, programming has really changed just based on OHA, state, county guidelines, you know, how many people we're allowed to have, mask mandates, all those sorts of things. So we've been working with some of our camp providers, somewhat successfully. We did run summer camps, but they were, you know, all different sorts of regulations with, you know, stable cohorts of 10 where you can only have 10 kids and, you know, you can run X number of camps. That sort of thing. So that's where we'll be working towards again as we kind of come back online here with outdoor camps and classes able to happen in the spring. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I think you guys will kick it off with a discussion of board goals.
Okay, thank you, Erica, and the rest of the staff. Mike, I think you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting you wanted to kind of stick to the 5:15 cutoff time today.
Well, and you know that we try to stay, you know, at least close. I mean,
Yeah.
So if we can stay in the ballpark.
Yeah, so I think given that that's roughly 15 minutes from now, I might propose a couple of things. One is, you know, can we meet again in say 2 or 3 weeks to talk about maybe just focus on board goals, maybe do an hour on board goals. And then what I'd like to do between now and then, Brian, if I recall correctly, board members can meet up to groups of 3 maybe before it's considered a public meeting. And so I'd like to try and have some offline conversations with the new and old members about what they're interested in and what their thoughts are going forward. So it can be a little more informed by the time we get to our next meeting to really get into board goals a little bit. and I'd have, I forget, not, well, Brian, somebody on your team to send my email and phone number out to the board members so the board members can contact me offline and can have a conversation with them one-on-one or one-on-two to talk about their interests. We got a fair number of new people between really last year and this year, and last year was pretty much a pretty quiet year. So that might help inform our next discussion on board goals. Mike or Brian, does that cause either of you any pain?
Jim, I would just clarify on that. And for any new board members or anyone, just as a reminder, as a board member of a city board or commission, you do have to just be cognizant of Oregon meeting laws. So anytime there's a quorum of you, so more than half of you in one place, that can be deemed a violation of that. So, you know, as a general rule, we would ask you not to discuss too much board business outside of board meetings. Obviously, you're all members of the community and can discuss your passions and thoughts as to what should take place. So we encourage you to do so. You know, one-on-one is probably your best bet. You know, the more of you that happen to get together and a fourth one shows up, then what do you do? So you know, just be cognizant of that. But Jim, as far as your proposal of a few weeks out to have another meeting to focus solely on board goals, that seems like a reasonable choice.
Okay. And for the board members, does anybody have any concerns with that idea? Okay.
The other thing I like about that idea, Jim, is that, as you're probably alluding to here in a minute, is that people can kind of come ready with a list of, you know, their top 5 things or top 2 things, or, you know, the goals that they really want to hit on. And I think the meeting will be a little bit more positive and get to the point and get those goals set.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Brian, if you would have someone send my contact info out to folks, that'd be great. Thank you. And then for our next meet, I'm going to come back to board goals in just a second, but just Mike, for our next meeting, if we don't have time today, if you at our next meeting would just maybe be prepared to talk a little bit about what are your goals for the Parks Department for the next year, and projects that you're thinking about proposing, taking forward in the next budget cycle, what that might start to look like.
Okay.
In terms of board goals, each of the board members has received last year's goals. Does anyone have any specific, particular questions around last year's goals? Any thoughts on goals that they wanted to bring up today, recognizing we got, you know, about 14 minutes to work with, but any initial thoughts that you would like to get out to the board today? If there's anything you'd like to get out today, please let us know. And I think I'll just go down the list if I can find it here. Amanda, anything in particular on your mind at the moment around goals?
Nothing relevant. It just seems like the last time we actually had a meeting, we developed these goals. And then
I think that's how I feel. I feel like the last meeting was a year ago at some level where we, other than some very specific task items. So I feel the same way. Dahi?
Yeah, actually, I have 2 on my list here. One thing we discussed last year was program. And the second one is something new, which is kind of really just got to me that I've been bike a lot. So I kind of know almost every single street with bike lanes in the city. The one question I got is the Park Avenue. Is it possible to, because there's a section on the Park Avenue that bike lane was disappeared. That's between bike lane and other side is what go towards the Costco. And we had a bike lane on park. Then I think near Xerox, it disappeared. And then it came back again. Is it possible to kind of complete that portion for the bike lanes?
Complete the bike lane between what 2 points between Xerox and?
As near Xerox on Park Avenue.
Dahe, I will pose that question to the folks in the planning department and see if there's any rhyme or reason as to why it is the way it is now and what can be done moving forward.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Jeff?
Hey, hey, Jim. I bumped into Mike at the grocery store the other day, and I was telling him that I'd like to reintroduce, and I know there's sensitivity about social distancing and masks and whatnot, but I'd like to take another hard look at volunteer efforts in the community. And Dustin, if it's okay with you, I'd like to reach out to you as well directly and maybe talk about that. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Daniel?
I'm just looking at these things. Some of them are pretty vague still. I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just gonna. Yeah, I don't have any.
that's fine. We can talk offline a little bit. Maybe I can give some background history and just to explore ideas a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Nate?
We're referring to the 2020 goals at this point, right?
Yeah, but you're welcome to also just to think, what your thoughts are for 21 as well. If this sparks any thought process for you this early in your tenure.
Sure. I thought I saw something on there regarding a member of like a high school joining or something. A goal to have a high school person joining. Was that achieved this year, or is that something that we were looking at for 2021?
That was not achieved this year. As Amanda was saying, we came up with these goals just about in time for COVID to shut everything down. So no progress was. I guess I'm not aware of any, Brian, unless you are.
No, there's not. And Nate, I've been involved in a few other cities where we had a high school member or two. And I think I might have brought that up as a possibility maybe a couple of years ago. And we've bantered it back and forth. Again, sometimes those members are voting members, sometimes they're not. Sometimes if they're not a voting member, they tend not to show up because why? I'm not voting a member anyway. So we'd have to get all those logistics pulled out and have to go to the council and have to establish those one or two new board positions as teen representatives and all the logistics that go with that. Like, do they have to come from different schools? How old do they have to be? All those kind of things. Sure. It's worth looking at for sure.
I just think it might add an interesting perspective from a different age bracket as well.
And it does. I agree.
All right, thank you, Nate. I think we lost Kate. I don't see her on my list anymore. And I think that covers everybody. Did I miss? I think I got everybody. Did I miss anyone? Speak up if I did. Okay. Where are we going to go with that next? Oh. So then I'll follow up with each of you offline and work with staff to get another meeting set up in 2 or 3 weeks. Any other just general board comments today from any board member? Hearing and seeing none.
Okay, we can have some questions. I guess one thing that I see that the parks next to the Comfort Creek was being constructed. I'm just curious that who is the city going to do the inspection or the HOA? I understand that HOA is going to maintain that park for the next 5 years. But who's going to do the inspection to accept the construction? Is it the city or is it the HOA?
I am a Dustin jump in here too. You're talking about RP 7 and 8, the ones out in Villebois?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're actually, I don't know if you've seen the names yet or not. It's interesting names. Their names are Tivoli is one and Olanka is the other one. And don't ask me where we got those. That was Brian and Erica and a couple other people involved in that crazy decision. But the one being built right now, if I got it right, is Tivoli. Correct, Dustin? Which is RP 8.
Yes, sir.
Other?
Yeah, no, that's Tivoli is RP8 and 7
Okay.
is Ulanka. That is correct.
Yeah, so Tivoli is the one being built now, and there's a trail that goes all the way from Barber over to Villebois Street, which is, I don't know if you've walked it, you probably have, Dahi, I see you out there running and things, but it's a great trail that goes all the way from Barber Street over to Villebois.
Yes,
It's
I
gonna
have.
be a lit trail. It's supposed to be lit. It was supposed to be lit by Thanksgiving, but a little behind as far as the contractor goes there. So that should be lit pretty soon, I hope. We don't take over the maintenance of, this one's a little different, and we just found this out a few weeks ago, Dustin and I did, is that from Denmark Street, which is about half the park, up to Barber is going to be our responsibility as of now, basically. And from Denmark down to Villebois, which is where the big grass area is, and the parking lot and the restroom, is going to be the HOA's responsibility for 5 years, like all the other Villebois parks were or are. And then across the street from Villebois, on the other side of Villebois Street, is where RP 7 will be, which is Olanka Park. And we haven't even started that one yet.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just curious that once the builder finished the construction and is there going to be like a inspection saying, okay, we're accepting this, or they're just once they're done, they're done?
We've been inspected periodically with the contractors. Dustin's been down there numerous times, and when we get to the point of completion, we'll inspect it together. But we also, after 5 years, like we're doing with Edelweiss Park, we're taking that over in April, I believe, if that's right, Dustin. And we will go out there, Dustin and his crew, and probably planning people, and we will have a checklist before we take it over to make sure it's to the standards we want it to be. Because obviously we don't want to take something over where you have to lay new concrete for a pickleball court or something. You know, we're not going to do that. So we will inspect it before we take it over.
So okay. I can jump in here, Mike, if that's okay. So with RP8 in particular, which has, 50% of the project is completed and 50% is split between what we manage right now and what we will manage in 5 to 6 years after phase 2 of construction is completed. The intention is to walk that entire project with engineering and with planning and with a representative of the HOA to punch list that out when the construction is complete. The ideal goal there is that we're not handing something over from Taylor Morrison, the contractor, to the HOA, that in 5 years when we are trying to hold the HOA accountable to specs that they were unaware of, because we're the ones who have the plans ultimately. So it'll be a team effort to get that punch list completed between parks maintenance, parks in general, engineering, planning, stormwater. There's some storm infrastructure out there, but also a member of the HOA for sure. Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'm just gonna make a comment on that because I walked there, but I walk almost every single day, and I did notice that the grass part was pruned out in a field, some sports field, and every time it rains and near the street side, the water just accumulates. I'm not sure if that's the way it's supposed to be, or whether drainage is not really working.
So there's drainage that rings that street side that that we have noticed some issues with that we're going to kind of look at once they get done with the next phase of the project as a whole. My concern is that overall that park may have water issues during large rain events because we put a park in a wetland area. But we'll ensure that any drainage that is there is operating like it is supposed to be. But you can kind of see there's that like a river rock thing that goes around the outside. That's supposed to be carrying that water, but when the water level gets so high out in the wetland area, it can't push the water that direction. So we're kind of stuck in a corner there with what we can get the infrastructure to handle, but we'll make sure that it's operating at the capacity that it's supposed to. We were out there the other day and the irrigation lid boxes were off. There was so much water down there. So
Yeah.
I understand your concern.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, this week is kind of exception, but I noticed water before.
Yeah, we'll work with the contractor and make sure that we get engineering and planning out there to make sure that grade is what it's supposed to be on that surface, to make sure that we're not only capturing the subsurface drainage, but even the surface level runoff, that it's, if it's supposed to be graded all towards that way, or if it's supposed to have that, kind of athletic field style hump in the middle, we'll make sure that we get the grading handled on that correctly before we punch out.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you.
Hey, Dustin, could you also give us an update? I'm not sure if this falls under you or Public Works, but over at Memorial Park, I think they're working on the sewer over there. They got a lot of work going on over there. Can you kind of tell us status of that, please?
Yeah, so that lift station process project over there, I actually was in talks with our engineering department early this week. They are just going to start cutting the road and laying that 36-inch sewer line in there here this week or next. The anticipated punch out date for that project was early March. That's probably 2 months off schedule now based on rain and they had some COVID delays with getting critical pieces of infrastructure in to kind of work that all out. The anticipated close date on that right now is June 1st, with most of the work being wrapped up by early May.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's all that I have. Brian, am I missing anything? Or Mike?
No, Jim, I don't think you're missing anything. I will share with the board. Kate has since stepped out. I did communicate, message her privately while this meeting was taking place. And I'll just share with the board, the roll call that I read tonight is the official roll of this board.
Without Kate.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other comments, I will adjourn this meeting. Brian, I don't remember, do we need a parliamentary close to the meeting, or I just say, have a good weekend?
You can just adjourn if you so choose.
All right, unless there's any final comments, this meeting is adjourned.
Jim, quick question.
Yeah.
Where did those names for those parks come from? I'm just curious. I can't leave this meeting without knowing there's some.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'm not opposed to them. I'm just very curious.
I don't know the number of the bus that Mike just threw me under, but here we go. So all of Villebois, if you'll note, well, you won't notice because most of the parks out there don't have signs, so you don't actually know what they're called, but that's a discussion for another day. But they all have, some sort of, I guess, European and various ties. So when those two parks were named, we were doing just research on famous national parks or famous landmarks that had a natural or some sort of park tie to it. And I remember at the time there was some pretty specific regions that we were trying to target as to where those names came from. So if you Google Tivoli and Ulanka, you will likely find a new park that you've never been to somewhere in the world.
And Tivoli actually was a park in Italy, and I think it might have been a botanical garden in Italy also. And Ulanka actually came from Finland, if I'm not mistaken, was a park in Finland. So yes, that happened to us sitting around the table researching different places.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. All right. Any other comments?
Jim, I hate to be the person to do this, but I will.
That's
Hey,
why we have.
just as a heads up for the board, you likely saw the article in the Spokesman, but the city and the Parks and Recreation Department is working very closely with the Korean War Memorial Foundation to design and place a Korean War Memorial Interpretive Center that will be housed at the Parks and Recreation Admin Office. The initial design process of that is ongoing with the foundation and how that process looks. The foundation is designing it. The foundation is funding it. When it's completed, they will gift it to the city. So the city will make sure that it meets everything we need it to make or to meet. I do sit on that committee, but that is a project that's ongoing and will be a pretty unique cultural element and historical element that we'll be able to house at Town Center Park.
Okay, thank you. Anything else come to anybody's mind? All right, I think we are now adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for meeting this week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Sure.